You are being watched for readiness, not worth. Do not relax. Not because danger is near, but because this moment requires awareness. I am Archangel Michael, and what I speak now is not meant for everyone. It is meant for those who feel an internal pressure they cannot explain, as if life itself is waiting for them to decide something. You misunderstood what this phase is. You thought this phase was about waiting. It is not. This phase is about evaluation. Not of your talent, not of your intelligence, not even of your faith. You are being watched for readiness, and readiness has nothing to do with perfection. Why life stopped responding the way it used to. There was a time when efforts produced results quickly, when movement was rewarded instantly, when feedback was obvious. That changed, and you assumed something was wrong. It isn't. You were moved into a higher system, one where reactions are delayed on purpose. Because at this level, impulsive people fail fast. You are no longer being tested for survival. Earlier phases tested endurance, patience, emotional tolerance. This phase tests self-governance. Can you move without applause? Can you stay disciplined without pressure? Can you act without emotional validation? Most people collapse here, not because they are weak, but because they are addicted to response. The silence is not abandonment. You prayed, you waited, you asked for confirmation, and it felt quiet. That silence was not absence, it was containment. When power increases, noise decreases. Instructions stop being shouted and start being felt. If you need chaos to move, you are not ready for authority. Why you feel restless but not lost. This is important. You are not confused, you are compressed. Restlessness is not lack of direction, it is excess potential without release. You are holding more than your current structure allows, and structures must break before expansion occurs. The trap you almost fell into. You almost convinced yourself that this is just overthinking. You should settle. You should be realistic. Maybe nothing more is coming. That voice did not come from wisdom. It came from fatigue. Fatigue lies convincingly. You are being watched, but not by enemies. This will surprise you. You are not being watched by opposition. You are being watched by alignment, by systems that only respond to consistency, emotional control, long-term thinking, clean execution. These systems do not announce themselves. They respond after proof. Why quick wins stopped appearing. Quick wins train dependence. Dependence disqualifies leadership, so they were removed. Now you must move without knowing if the reward is immediate. This is how trust is built, not from heaven to you, but from you to yourself. The internal shift that must happen now. You must stop asking, will this work, and start asking, is this who I am now? Identity-driven action outlasts motivation. Motivation burns fast. Identity holds steady. The next move will feel quiet, and that is a warning. If your next step feels dramatic, you are likely compensating. The correct move will feel calm, clear, boring to explain, unnecessary to announce. That is how alignment feels. Do not rush, but do not freeze. Speed is not urgency. Stillness is not delay. The danger is hesitation disguised as strategy.
Overthinking is not intelligence, it is fear wearing logic's clothes. This part ends with a line. Read this slowly. You are no longer being prepared, you are being positioned. Preparation tolerates mistakes, positioning does not. That is why everything feels heavier. If you are ready to continue this message, where I expose the exact habit that is weakening your authority, why some prayers were intentionally unanswered, and what separates observers from decision makers, say clearly.
What weakens authority without you noticing? Stay focused. This part is not comforting, it is corrective. I am Archangel Michael, and what I reveal now explains why some capable people never cross into power, even though nothing is technically stopping them. Authority is not lost, it is leaked slowly. Most people think authority is taken from them. It rarely is. Authority is leaked slowly through habits that look harmless but create internal division. You don't wake up powerless, you practice powerlessness quietly. And there is one habit in particular that has been weakening you. The habit: delayed self-trust. You second-guess decisions you already understand. You recheck conclusions you already reached. You seek reassurance for instincts that have already proven accurate. Not because you're unsure, but because you don't want responsibility if you're right. This is the truth most people avoid. Being right costs more than being wrong. When you're right, expectations increase, standards rise, retreat becomes harder, so hesitation becomes a safety mechanism. Why you keep thinking but not moving? Thinking feels productive, planning feels intelligent, research feels responsible. But there is a line where thinking stops being preparation and becomes delay disguised as discipline. You crossed that line recently. You felt it, that moment when clarity arrived, and instead of acting, you reopened analysis. That is not wisdom. That is fear of consequence. The consequence you're actually afraid of. It is not failure. You have failed before and survived. What unsettles you is irreversibility. Once you move cleanly, you cannot pretend you didn't know. Once you commit, you cannot return to ambiguity. Authority removes excuses, and excuses have been cushioning you. Why some prayers were not answered. This part requires maturity. Some of your prayers were not ignored, they were withheld, because the answer would have removed your need to decide. You asked for certainty, but certainty would have made you dependent, so clarity was given instead, and decision was left to you. Heaven does not replace human responsibility, it strengthens it. The dangerous comfort of almost trying, almost committing, almost changing. Almost feels safe, but almost produces nothing except prolonged tension. Tension without movement becomes frustration. Frustration becomes self-doubt. Self-doubt becomes identity erosion. This is how capable people stall. You are not lacking discipline, you are misusing it. You are disciplined where it feels controlled. You hesitate where outcomes cannot be rehearsed. That is not lack of strength, that is selective courage. Authority requires uniform courage, not just in familiar terrain. Why others with less talent advance faster? This will sting, but it will free you. Others move faster not because they are better, but because they tolerate uncertainty sooner. They decide before feeling ready. They act before confidence arrives. They accept exposure early.
You wait to feel aligned. They move and become aligned. This is not recklessness, it is trust in motion. The internal rule that must change. You currently operate by this rule. I move when I feel secure. That rule worked for survival. It does not work for leadership. The rule must become, I move when clarity appears. Security follows execution, not the other way around. What authority feels like and why you've misread it. Authority does not feel powerful at first. It feels lonely, quiet, slightly uncomfortable, oddly simple. No rush, no applause, no emotional high, just alignment without debate. You misread this calm as uncertainty. It is not, it is stability without noise. The moment you are approaching. There is a moment coming, very soon, where the same option will appear again. Same opportunity, same decision, same direction. But this time, the internal tension will be stronger. That is not pressure, that is expiration. When decisions repeat, it is because time is closing the loop. Do not wait for a different option. This is critical. Waiting for a better version of the same choice is how people miss timing. Growth does not offer infinite invitations. It offers clear ones and waits to see if you respect them. My direct correction to you. Stop rehearsing outcomes. Stop explaining possibilities. Stop negotiating internally. When clarity arrives, act once, act clean, act without commentary. This is not emotional bravery, it is structural discipline. This part ends with a warning and a promise. The warning: if you continue delaying clear decisions, life will simplify them for you, often through discomfort. The promise: if you move now, momentum will not need to be chased, it will attach itself. If you are ready to continue, where I expose why your environment must change, why familiarity is becoming dangerous, and how to stabilize power once it arrives, say clearly,
Familiarity is now a liability. Because this is the part where most people silently lose momentum, not through failure, but through comfort. I am Archangel Michael, and what I speak now explains why your environment feels heavier, noisier, and more limiting than before. What once supported you is now constraining you. There was a time when your environment helped you grow. The routines, the people, the pace, the expectations, they were appropriate then. But environments expire, just like roles do. And when you outgrow an environment, it doesn't collapse, it tightens. That tightening is what you're feeling. Why familiarity feels safe and why it's dangerous now. Familiarity reduces decision-making, it lowers alertness, it dulls urgency. That's why it feels safe. But safety without growth becomes stagnation. And stagnation slowly convinces capable people that they are bored, they are tired, they are not motivated anymore. That is not burnout. That is misplacement. The subtle way environments drain authority. This is important. You are not being drained by conflict. You are being drained by predictability. Predictable conversations, predictable reactions, predictable expectations of you. When people already know who you are, they stop listening for who you are becoming. And unconsciously, you start performing the old version to avoid friction. That performance costs energy. Why some people must lose access quietly. Not everyone needs to be confronted. Not everyone needs an explanation. Not everyone needs closure. Some access must end without ceremony. Because certain people don't oppose your growth, they anchor you to who you were. And anchors don't look hostile. They look supportive. They look familiar. They look harmless. That's why they're effective. Do not confuse history with alignment. Shared history does not equal shared direction. Someone can know your past deeply and still be unqualified for your future. Loyalty to history becomes disloyalty to calling when direction changes. This is not betrayal. This is accuracy. Why your tolerance has dropped. You've noticed it. Noise irritates you faster. Small talk exhausts you. Repeated explanations frustrate you. This is not arrogance. This is not impatience. This is capacity signaling. When responsibility increases, tolerance for inefficiency decreases automatically. Your system is adjusting. The environment you need now. You do not need motivation. You need fewer opinions, cleaner inputs, sharper boundaries, higher standards. Growth accelerates in simpler spaces. Noise delays clarity. Clarity demands reduction. What happens if you ignore this shift? If you stay where you've outgrown, you will feel restless without knowing why. You'll procrastinate without being lazy. You'll doubt yourself without reason. Eventually, you'll mistake misalignment for personal failure. That mistake costs years. The correction is not dramatic, it is practical. You are not being told to disappear. You are not being told to isolate. You are not being told to burn bridges. You are being told to restructure access. Less availability, more intention, clearer priorities. Power stabilizes through boundaries, not intensity. Why this phase feels lonely? When you reduce noise, you temporarily reduce company. That loneliness is not emptiness, it is space being created. And space is required before higher-level alignment can enter. Crowded lives cannot receive precision. The moment you're in right now. This is the phase where fewer people understand you, fewer conversations excite you, fewer options feel correct. That narrowing is not loss, it is focus, and focus precedes momentum. Do not announce these changes. Again, this matters. Do not explain why you're less available. Do not justify why you've changed routines. Do not defend your silence. Explanations invite negotiation. Boundaries do not. This part ends with a decision point. Read this carefully. If you try to carry everyone forward with you, you will move slower than those you're trying to protect. Leadership requires separation before elevation. If you are ready to continue, where I explain how to stabilize momentum once the environment shifts, why discipline replaces motivation at this level, and the exact mistake that causes people to fall back, say clearly,
Momentum is lost quietly, not dramatically. This part is where people assume they're safe, and that assumption is what costs them everything they just gained. I am Archangel Michael, and now we address stability. Why most people fall back after breakthrough. People think collapse comes from crisis. It rarely does. Regression comes from relaxation without structure. After progress begins, effort decreases, vigilance drops, discipline softens, boundaries blur. Not because people are careless, but because they confuse movement with arrival. You are not arriving, you are transitioning. Momentum is not self-sustaining. This is the mistake that destroys progress, believing momentum will carry itself. Momentum is not a force, it is a condition, and conditions must be maintained. When you stop reinforcing what created movement, movement slows, quietly, gradually, invisibly. By the time you notice, you're already drifting. The exact mistake that causes backsliding. Here it is, clearly. You return to old input patterns, same distractions, same conversations, same habits, same emotional exposures. You tell yourself, I'm stronger now. Strength does not cancel influence. Even disciplined minds degrade under undisciplined inputs. This is not weakness, it is physics. Why discipline replaces motivation at this level? Motivation is emotional, discipline is structural. Motivation depends on mood, discipline survives mood. At earlier stages, motivation worked because growth was novel. Now, growth is expected. Expectation requires systems, not feelings. The discipline you must install immediately. This is non-negotiable. Your first hour and your last hour of the day must be protected, not filled, protected. What enters your mind at the beginning and what lingers at the end sets your internal authority level. If those hours are chaotic, your entire day destabilizes. Stop letting small breaches pass. Small breaches feel harmless, skipping one routine, allowing one distraction, breaking one boundary just this once. Authority erodes through permission, not force. What you permit repeatedly, you normalize. What you normalize, you embody. Why you must track energy, not time. Time management is insufficient now. You must manage mental energy, emotional exposure, attention quality. 2 hours of drained focus is worse than 20 minutes of sharp presence. Stop asking, how long did I work? Start asking, how clear was I while working? The role of rest and the lie about it. Rest is not disengagement. Rest is intentional recovery. Mindless scrolling is not rest. Escapism is not rest. Numbing is not rest. True rest restores clarity. If you rest and return dull, you didn't rest, you distracted. Why consistency will feel boring? Consistency lacks novelty, it lacks drama, it lacks validation. That boredom is the price of stability. If you seek excitement, you will sabotage rhythm. Rhythm builds power, excitement burns it. The moment you must not miss. Soon you will feel normal again. Less pressure, less intensity, less urgency. This is where people assume I've stabilized. No, this is where the real work begins. Stability is not the reward, it is the platform. Do not lower standards to feel relief. Lowering standards feels human, it feels deserved. It is also how authority dissolves. Standards must rise slightly every time capacity expands. Comfort is not the goal, alignment is. This part ends with a hard truth. Read this carefully. If your life does not become simpler as your power increases, you are building incorrectly. Complexity is a warning sign. If you are ready to continue, where I deliver the final part and close this second message by explaining how to lock authority long-term, why self-respect is now more important than effort, and the one internal rule that prevents collapse permanently, say clearly.
Authority is maintained by self-respect, not effort. This is the end of the message and the beginning of accountability. Read this without emotion, without hope, without fear. I am Archangel Michael. What follows is not inspiration, it is instruction. Why effort is no longer your problem. You have worked hard before. You have pushed. You have sacrificed. You have endured. Effort is not your weakness. Self-respect is the variable that decides everything now. People lose power not because they stop trying, but because they tolerate what contradicts who they are becoming. Effort without self-respect turns into exhaustion. Self-respect without effort turns into entitlement. Authority requires both, but in the correct order. Self-respect is not an attitude, it is a filter. Self-respect is not confidence, it is not ego, it is not arrogance. Self-respect is what you refuse to engage with. Stop explaining. Stop tolerating. Stop negotiating. You don't protect your future by working harder. You protect it by reducing exposure. The silent rule you must adopt. From this point forward, one rule governs everything. If something consistently costs you clarity, it is too expensive, no matter how familiar it feels. This includes conversations, habits, commitments, environments, even versions of yourself. Power is not built by addition, it is built by elimination. Why you must stop proving yourself. Proving invites judgment. Judgment invites interference. Interference destabilizes momentum. When you know who you are becoming, you do not argue with people who cannot see it. You outgrow the need to be convincing. Explanation is a form of seeking permission. Authority does not ask. The difference between discipline and control. Discipline is internal alignment. Control is external compensation. When discipline is strong, you don't need to control outcomes. You trust your response to outcomes. This is why emotionally disciplined people rise quietly, and unstable people rise loudly, then fall. Why self-respect will cost you comfort. Make no mistake. Choosing self-respect will end certain dynamics, disappoint certain expectations, remove certain conveniences, create temporary loneliness. But comfort built on self-betrayal always collapses. Loneliness built on alignment always passes. The moment you must recognize immediately. Soon you will face a choice that looks small, a request, a distraction, a compromise, a just this once. This is the test. Not because the choice is big, but because it reveals who is in charge. Every major collapse begins with a minor permission. The one internal rule that prevents collapse permanently. Write this into your thinking. I do not do things that require me to explain myself later.
If something demands justification, rationalization, or recovery, it is already misaligned. Clean actions do not require defense. Why your life will feel quieter and stronger. As self-respect solidifies, fewer people will have access to you. Fewer things will demand your attention. Fewer emotions will hijack your decisions. This is not detachment. This is command. Command is quiet. Stop waiting for confirmation. Confirmation follows execution, not the other way around. Every time you waited for certainty, you delayed momentum. Every time you moved with clarity, certainty followed. You already know this. You've lived it. This is the final correction. You are not here to be impressive. You are not here to be validated. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be consistent with truth. Truth does not shout. Truth does not chase. Truth does not beg. Truth stands and waits to see who aligns. My final word to you. This message ends here, not because there is nothing more to say, but because there is nothing more you need to hear. From this moment forward, act when clarity appears. Protect your inputs. Reduce noise aggressively. Honor your standards without apology. Do not explain your evolution. You are not becoming powerful. You are remembering how power behaves. Stand firm. Move clean. Do not return to what you outgrew. Archangel Michael.